Hello, everyone. Welcome back to our weekly video series where we talk about everything energetic, intuitive, and spiritual. I'm Peyton, and I am joined by the ladies, Corey and Yaila. And today we are going to be talking about how to set your frequency. And so if you've been on your spiritual path for a while, you know that your frequency is everything. And so today we're going to talk a little bit about how to set that so that you are always in control of it. But before we jump into that, if you are new to our videos, welcome. We're so happy to have you. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channels, which we will link at the bottom of the screen so that you can reach out to us anytime and let us know your thoughts, any suggestions you have for topics. We can't wait to connect with you. So today we are talking about frequency. And that is, of course, the most important part of our energy work. And so we're going to be talking about how do you set your frequency? How do you control it? And so to kick us off today, I would like to start with you, Corey. What do you think of when you think about setting your frequency?
You know, this is a great topic, and I'm glad to be with you ladies at the moment and actually every video. So frequency is setting your energetic body and aligning your vibration with a certain frequency. And I always shoot for love, you know, the unconditional love, because it's a high vibration, and it, along with that, comes compassion and understanding. And I've noticed that the days that I'm not conscious about setting my frequency, which is rare, but every so often, you know, got to get up and get going quick. But when I don't, the frequency that will come in is sometimes like confusion, maybe agitation. I can get agitated and get angered, which I don't often do. So setting your frequency is really important, especially if you're on this path. And like at the moment, you know, this time on the planet, you know, the energies are so strong. And so to set your frequency higher helps to manage through the energies that are going on in the planet. So when I set my frequency to love, I'm able to see the world and everything in a more loving, kind nature. And that's why it's so important. So important to set your frequency and just be conscious of your frequency. What are you running at? You're running at love or above, or are you running at irritability, discontent, judgment? Because those are lower frequencies. So first of all, to be aware of the level of frequency that you're running at. And well, judgment would be a lower one, anger would be a lower one, which doesn't mean that we don't feel those emotions, but to stay in that energy is a frequency. So we're human, we feel, but to allow those feelings to come in, that frequency to come in and process it and let it go, you know, and let it go through us instead of holding on to it, lowering our frequency. So whatever frequency we're at, that's what we're going to attract as well. So if if you've noticed, like when you're having a bad day, or, you know, you woke up and, you know, the dog got sprayed by a skunk, you know, you might be a little, you know, agitated, a little angry. But if you go throughout the day and not be mindful of taking care of that frequency before you go out about your day, you'll attract more things that are angry, you know, that are agitated, and, you know, you could just have a terrible day. And that's because we have a choice, you know, when we're doing energy work and when we're on the spiritual journey, we become aware of energy and frequencies. And it's important. It's important to choose your frequency, whether it's daily, monthly, or just, you know, walking the path and deciding, well, I'm going to walk in the path of love. I'm going to walk in the path of gratitude. And when you get off that frequency, to recognize it and bring it back. And that could be meditation, that could be music. Music can help change your frequency. So especially, nowadays, energies are strong. So when you set your frequency higher, the energies are easier to manage. So that's what I've got on frequency. How about you, Yaila?
Thank you, ladies. I love this topic on setting your frequency. Some other people call it raising your vibration, but I think it's important to note that you are actually in control of the energy you have in your space. And we've done some previous videos talking about that, psychic defense, energy protection, and various things on the topic. But when I think of energy frequency or energy vibrations, and you've all felt it, where you've had a really great day and you're excited, your first time you had your first kiss or you're in love, you feel a certain vibration in your body. Also, you've had those times where you're really angry, you're really frustrated, maybe you're feeling guilty or shameful or having to muster up some courage. You've felt different frequencies or vibrations in your body. And, every vibration serves a purpose. Obviously there are some quote unquote lower vibrations, like fear, guilt, and shame are some of the actual lowest ones. And if you want to look at a really nice visual scale, you can look at David Hawkins. He has a book called The Power versus Force, is kind of where I first gotten clued into the vibrations of frequency. And it's kind of, he levels it at a certain number based on the vibration that it vibrates at. There's other studies based off of the language that we use or following our brain pattern to the thoughts that we're thinking, because our words and our thoughts also hold a vibration. If you've ever taken a yoga class or followed a meditation with Sanskrit, there is the language. It's actually, the words are used to have a certain vibration impact on your physical energetic state. So there is some actual research on this if you are curious to look at it. But bringing it back home to you, just watching, setting your frequency is a choice. You can choose what you want to energetically be surrounded by. And so Corey was really great describing how you can set it at love or above. You can set the energy in your home. You can set the energy in your car. I've set the energy when I used to go into an actual job. I set certain vibrations to be around me that I just want to play in. And so love or above is a really great frequency too. And your intention is enough to change it. Meaning, I want to show up today being in love, or forgiveness is a really powerful energy. It's one of those really strong vibrations where you can totally fake it until you make it. There is anger, even anger serves a purpose. Anger for me is a catalyst for change. When I've been in the times where I am so mad and so frustrated, I'm just full of anger, I'm starting to get ideas and insights and the actual energy and motivation to make changes out of the situation. So just because it's a lower vibration doesn't mean it's not serving a purpose. But like Corey said, you want to understand what vibration, what frequency are you currently in? How is it serving you? What do you need to learn from it? And then once you get that information, how do you utilize that to help you move forward? So some things like fear, guilt, and shame brings us insights to our boundaries, to our values. So again, they serve a purpose, but of course you don't want to operate in fear all the time. We've kind of seen what that looks like in the last couple of years, just with, what's been going on with the world. Choices we make based off of fear versus based off of love or courage. Or we've talked in videos before on one of my superpowers, I say, is amusement. When I am amused, when I can find, because this world that we're in, this reality is amusing to me sometimes, like why we think stuff, why we operate certain ways. And it helps me raise my own vibration so I can look at the picture, I can look at the situation more from a higher perspective, meaning I can see all the different sides and I don't have to get stuck into this one little pigeonhole of energy. When I bring in amusement, I can actually see a bigger grand scheme of things. And it helps me start to find, again, other directions, other ways to go. And what I want to say too with frequency is, this is not like a spiritual bypass type of thing. When you're feeling something, we've talked about shadow work in other videos too. There is a purpose for why certain things come up, and to move through it is to actually give yourself the space to connect in why is this showing up, because it's serving a purpose for you in that moment of time. And I usually find, again, it's where your values are, what boundaries need to be upheld, changes in, beliefs that you can do, changes in actions that you can do. There's a lot that you can gain from looking at what is showing up energetically, vibrationally in your space, and then where do you want it to be? So, again, setting your space, like my home is set to peace and love. When I go to work, it's set for collaboration and flow, so you can tap into all these different ways to set your frequency. And again, your intention is a really great way. If you're visual, I like to ask myself, well, if, flow had a color, what color would that be for me? And I literally just bring in a big ball of that color of energy and I see it flooding my entire space or the space that I'm going into. And then sometimes just setting the intention and asking yourself, how can I be in more flow? How can I act or see this through love? How can I see this through amusement? You can come at it at a lot of different ways depending on what you personally connect with. But that's what I would add to setting your frequency. You definitely have more say in your energetic space than what we've been taught. How about you, Peyton?
I just love it when we get together because you guys think of the best ways to say the exact same thing as I was going to say. So I love hearing it come from all these different just slants, different lenses to look at this through, because I really think that knowing how to set your frequency is one of the most powerful things you can do. And so the Pleiadians who I work with so often are always talking about frequency, frequency, frequency. And so the way that I look at it, which is so similar to what you guys just described, is I think of it as my radio station. And it's the signal that I am broadcasting all day, every day. And just like with a radio station, whatever you set it to, you're going to get back. So if you set it to country music, you are probably not going to get a concerto coming back. And your frequency is exactly the same. So if you're setting your frequency intentionally, you're controlling that radio station. And so then when the manifestations come back, your manifestations, which is whatever's happening in your life, whatever you're trying to create, are going to match your dominant frequency. And so my guides are always talking to me about the importance of controlling that frequency. Be the one that controls the dial. Because the more you can do this, that's when you really become an energy master. Because again, as you're controlling the signal you're sending out, you have a lot more control over what's coming back to you. It's going to match the reflection of what you're sending out. So the way I like to play with setting frequency is I always try to grab it from first thing in the morning, because I find it's much easier to control my frequency during the day if I grab it from the minute I wake up. Because if not, we can really easily get into like this default mode where your schedule sets your frequency. And so then it becomes, well, what clients are you working with? Do you have to get out in traffic this morning? And those things will dictate your frequency, which another way to think of it is just how do you feel? So thinking of how you feel or how you want to feel, for me, is always a shortcut to knowing what your frequency is. And so the way that I always play with this in the morning, as soon as I wake up, I decide what that radio station is that I want to dial into for that day. And lately I've been playing so much with bliss, with excitement, and with freedom. And so I just decide this is what I want my day to reflect to me. And when you do that, you don't really care so much about how it looks. You care about how it feels. And to me, if my day brings me bliss, frequency, and excitement, I'm pretty much good with whatever it looks like. So I start doing that first thing in the morning, deciding what I want to experience. And then I put myself in the feeling state of it, because the Pleiadians always talk about how important it is to not make this a mental exercise. So if you're just thinking about how you want to feel, that doesn't have a lot of power to it. It's better than not putting any thought into it, but it's really the feeling state that draws things to you. That's when you really start to magnetize things to you. So what I do then is either use memories or my imagination to think of something that puts me in the feeling state that I want to have that day. So what can I remember? A memory when I felt just blissed out and free and super excited. The last time I was on vacation, or when I was, doing something really amazing and new for the first time, and get into that feeling state of it, and then really let yourself soak in that feeling state. Because again, it's how you feel, not just what you're telling yourself in your mind. And so once I have that and really soak in that for 30 seconds or a minute, then I try to remember that and hold on to it as much as I can during my day. And this is where a little bit of that self-mastery comes in that we've been talking about in so many of our videos, that unfortunately our frequency is not as easy as thinking about it once and then not thinking about it again. And so I try to check in during the day and just remind myself to bring myself back to the way that I want to feel. Because if not, again, your schedule can start to dictate it. Other people that you're around, is your boss on a tear, is your best friend having a meltdown. If you're not the one controlling that radio station, it's easy to let other people do it. So then checking in with yourself a couple of times during the day, bringing yourself back to that way you want to feel, it puts you a lot more in control of how you feel during the day. And as you do that, you control what's reflected back to you in your life, because you're starting to be that creator that you are, stepping into those God shoes. So anyway, that's how I look at it and how I set my frequency every day. Any other tips, girls, though? What else comes to you? How do you guys help your clients with this?
Well, I love what you're saying about, even if you're like around other people, because even if you wouldn't consider yourself an empath or sensitive, we are exchanging energy with people all the time. And you've probably seen this in groups where, I'm just thinking of like a team that wins a game or something like that. And all of a sudden there's like total chaos that erupts in the street, where somebody probably wouldn't do that on their own, but since they're in the crowd and they're picking up on the energy, it just starts to like expand. And so when I think of setting my frequency, and I love how you're saying, keep checking in on, are you still at the vibration you want to be in? And you can keep changing, you keep setting it, and you want to make sure you have most of your energy in your space and not other people's. So when I work with my students and my clients, that is the number one focus. The number one focus is to help them create and understand what energy is in their own little energy bubble and how to clear that. That is the number one go-to training that they all get. And when I do energy readings and healings, I'm helping to move out any other energy that's not theirs, because that's where people have their most power. They're most clear to their inner guidance, their higher guidance, their intuition, their guides they work with. When you have more of your own energy in your space is where, again, you have the most say, and you can really feel like, is this my energy? Is this other people's? Do I want this? What can I learn from it? Do I want to change it? How do I change it? What do I need? So, that is my number one go-to with helping my clients, is understanding their energy, how to clear it, and how to bring in what they want.
Yeah, I love that. That's a good one. And I think the more you start to learn how to separate your energy from other people, then it starts to get easier to control your frequency, because you start to realize, oh, that's not me, that's my friend today. Or that's, the client that I'm meeting with. And so you can separate that, and you can reset yourself, and it gets easier because you're not trying to clear up everyone else's energy like you do when you think it's your own. So.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. One of the things that I do with my clients and students is that awareness. What does frequency feel like? And there's the planet's frequency. And I talk to a lot of my clients about the Schumann resonance. What is a Schumann resonance? It's the frequency of the planet. And it affects all of us on the planet. And so I have them start looking at the Schumann resonance. And when they feel like a sudden shift of energy, I have them look at the Schumann resonance. And so that to help them have that awareness of when frequency shifts or changes. And then allow them to, just get a handle of that. And then deciding, do I like that frequency? Do I not like that frequency? Is this, like Yaila was talking about, is this my energy or is it somebody else's? But a lot of times people don't have even, some of my clients don't even have a concept of what is frequency. How does it affect me? What does it feel like? And so the feelings are great. Peyton, when you're talking about feelings, are a great indication of your frequency. I love to start with the Schumann resonance and have people have an awareness of, okay, there's a planet, there's a frequency, it goes up, it goes down, okay, and start to get, sometimes it needs to be that basic. It reminds me of a story of Yaila, when you were talking about one time I went on vacation with a boyfriend at the time. And sometimes he was really, really grumpy and you just never knew like where he was going to be at. And so before we left on the trip, I said to myself, you know what? I'm going to decide to have a great time. I'm going to have fun. I'm going to laugh. I'm going to have good food. And I'm just going to have a great time, no matter what he was doing or anybody else that was around. I just decided I'm going to keep my frequency high and I'm going to have a good time. Set to fun and laughter and joy and amusement. And I had a great time. So I love how you ladies were mentioning about, being, around other people. And it really, it doesn't matter whether, what the energy is around other people, that we can set our frequency the way that we want to set it in any situation, in any place in the world. So yeah, frequency, it's a great topic.
Yeah, it's really important. And one of the good things about frequency is that you can switch it really quickly. Like it's easier to adjust your frequency than if you think about trying to shift your emotions. Like our emotions can be denser and heavier to shift. Like if you've ever been in a really bad mood, you just had one of those days and you're on a tear and you try to get yourself out of it. It's just not that easy to do, no matter how many tools you bring to the table, how many skills you have, so emotions can be denser and harder to shift, but our frequency actually can be much easier. Our frequency is actually, my guides always taught me that it's around us in our aura first, and then it makes its way into our body. And so it's actually a little lighter and easier. So you can shift out of, a bad mood, being a little cranky, whatever you have going on, by knowing how to shift your frequency. And it's easier than trying to like talk yourself out of a bad mood or, being really angry. So it's one of those things that you have the power to really change things quickly when you know how to work with your frequency. So I always say be gentle with yourself because it's a bit of a learning curve. It's not something you necessarily master the first time you try it. But the more you do all these tools that we've talked about in our videos with our energy protection, and as Yaila was talking about separating your energy from someone else's, then it starts to get easier. And then you realize no matter what you're around, everyone else could be having a terrible day and you could be sitting there having the best day. Just a little party of one. So that's kind of the power of frequency for me.
I agree wholeheartedly.
Yep. Yep. Little party one over here. Having a great old time.
High frequency, party of one.
And the cool thing is when you start to shift yourself, it ripples out. It starts to shift everyone around you, and that's really a gift because then you start to help other people who might not have the tools that you have. So it's powerful stuff. which is why we're such big fans of it.
Exactly. Or say that everybody's like, oh, I love when that person comes over because, they just lighten up the room, or I always feel so good when I hang out with that person.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's that frequency. That's what frequency is. So
that's actually one of my favorite compliments. They're always like, oh, I love your energy. I'm like, thank you. I work on it. That's intentional. Thanks. Like, I love your energy is like, I love your new outfit. It's like,
right. Well, that's what we do. Like before we start these videos, we all check each other's frequency. How's your frequency? How's your frequency? It changes. Yeah.
It's important.
It is.
This is one of those skills to master if you don't know how. So I'm so glad that we're talking about it today. So ladies, any last thoughts? Anything needing wrap up? No. Well, thank you guys so much for tuning into our videos. We love doing them for you, and we hope you're enjoying them as much as we are. Don't forget to reach out to us on social media. All of our contact information is at the bottom of the screen, and we'd love to see your comments, your thoughts, your likes, your shares. We do this for you to help you raise your frequency. So we will see you next time. Have a good night. Bye.